Good morning, everyone. This is Jane, and welcome to another great day of 28 Days of Technology Careers. We decided to host this event because, we have so many different job titles, but what is it that we really do on a day-to-day basis? We're very lucky to have so many different speakers volunteering to tell us a little bit about their daily challenges and also maybe help those of you who are just starting, looking into certain careers to help you understand what it is that you can look forward to into that certain role. So today we have Kit Lee, who is going to be talking about solutions architect.
Thanks, Jane. Appreciate that. Thanks for coming in and spending some time to hear this talk out. I'm hoping to talk to you guys about what it means to be a solution architect. So a little bit about myself. I am a director at BNY Mellon Pershing. We are probably the largest bank that you've never heard of. BNY Mellon is an institutional bank. So we effectively serve as a bank for other banks and other large entities like mutual funds, pension funds, and the like. I work within the Pershing division, which is actually one of the largest clearing custodians in the country. And we clear about, I think somewhere between 30 to 40% of the U.S. equity market today on an annual basis. And we've been doing this for years and years. We are also probably one of the oldest banks in the country. I think we're over 200 somewhat years old now. And we have a long history of servicing, both clients and other institutions. A little bit about my role. So I am a solution architect at BNY Mellon. I do have a technology background. What I want to talk to you guys about here today is what it means to be a solution architect. So one of the things that's a little bit different about solution architect, I find, is that we look at architecture, we look at building solutions from a very end-to-end standpoint. So we're not really just worried about building fantastic software that's the most performant. But beyond that, we actually want to make sure that our solutions actually drive business impact. So when we want to build solutions, we also care about how they will be consumed, how the user will be impacted, what sort of volumes will we be able to drive, and is it easy to use? Does it integrate well with all of the technology landscape of what's being put in front of a user? I would say it's a little bit of broader type of thinking, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in my next slide. Just a little bit on this presentation. I prefer to be fairly interactive. So if you guys have questions anytime, don't feel like you have to wait, just chime in and ask, because I could spend 20 minutes talking about myself and then, or you could ask questions anywhere along the way. So feel free to interject. So when I agreed to give this presentation, I was like, well, the first thing I'm going to do is go Google what a solution architect is. As you see, I pulled up the definition as defined by Wikipedia. It's the practice of defining and describing architecture of a system delivered in the context of a specific solution. And as such, it may encompass description of an entire system or only its specific parts. And generally, that's defined by the solution architect. What that effectively means in the way I interpret that, and different people may interpret it differently, but it's really defining and describing and building architecture that would suffice for a specific business solution. It's not just say, I'm going to build a reporting system or a reporting engine, or I'm going to build a website. It's about the end-to-end impact of that. So how do you drive outcome when you architect the system, and really look at it from that standpoint? One of the things that I want to highlight is that there are solution architects at companies that work strictly on internal systems or within their business groups. I am one that works closely with the customers. So I am a customer-facing solution architect, particularly in that I spend a lot of time with our customers to solution integrations and custom architecture that fit all pieces of both of our platforms. So that's something to keep in mind. There may be slight nuances of what that means, but the actual desire, what you are trying to achieve, is effectively the same. One of the reasons that at least my company created this role is that they wanted to increase efficiency in how clients would be able to use our solution. So think of everything that our platform at a company would offer. So we think of those as all building blocks. So we have reporting tools, we have clearing custody software, we have ability to open new accounts. So these things to me are just different building blocks of how I can build a solution for a particular client. And so my role is really to understand all of those individual building blocks, be able to understand what is the package solution that we can offer a customer that is most impactful to them, and also will help them grow. And one of the reasons why companies think this role is important is that having solution architects in place targeting specific areas, so in my case, targeting customer integrations per se, it usually creates a better experience for those customers or for that particular solution, in that you're giving someone full-time jobs to think about how all of it ties together to drive business results. What we found anyway is that we have more loyal customers. The solutions and platform that we tend to build are stickier to that customer, in that they're less likely to switch solution providers or, switch vendors, et cetera. So those are the things that I think really help the customer. But, I think the cherry on top is really where a solution architect can bring a little bit more to the table than just, plugging into a platform like you would plug into an outlet, in that you can actually customize specific things to innovate. So when I look at those basic building blocks that exist at my company that we talked about, how do I take those building blocks and maybe even on top of that, build something new, whether it's, ability to open accounts, run specific reporting, do billing, et cetera. The thing that I could then do is think about how we can then innovate on top of the building blocks that we do have. So how do I add machine learning? How do I add blockchain? How do I add some of the newer technologies in the marketplace into our building blocks so that our customers can take advantage of those, or really co-create with some of our customers so that we can have a more comprehensive and a solution that would, help boost revenue and improve efficiency, et cetera. So these are some of the reasons why we think solution architects exist. One of the examples I find really relevant in the marketplace is that Amazon actually has solution architects. They created years ago teams of solution architects to help different enterprises and companies onboard into AWS. And so when I look at that, the question I ask myself is, well, once these companies are onboarded into AWS, when do they actually leave? Do they ever walk away from the AWS platform? It's pretty much never, right? For Amazon as a business, it just makes a huge amount of sense. And similarly, we're finding that across many business landscapes, including my company. So we have this solution architect role for that reason. Talking a little bit about day-to-day responsibilities. So one of the things that's really important is knowing your platform really, really well. So when I talk about the building blocks of which, was what I think of as tools for solution architects, you really have to understand what you're solutioning, particularly in my space, solutioning with the customer. I need to understand those core building blocks to be able to build on top of it, to be able to know which of those building blocks make sense to offer different types of customers, and really need to understand how they apply to the business. And that's really pretty critical. So the first bullet there, I would have to say I spend quite a bit of my time just learning more about and more deeply about different pieces of those building blocks and platforms that we have. So in my company, I think we have about 50,000 people. We're a fairly large global company. And in that, there's lots of systems, applications that I need to learn over time in order to most appropriately help our customers. And the second thing that I do a lot with is working with people. So in this particular role, you work with every kind of people that would exist in any business. So anything from relationship managers to every type of technical role you can think of. And it's the ability to work with people a lot that makes this job really, really interesting. There's a huge amount of technical expertise that's needed, as well as the ability to really bring that technical expertise to the masses, to work with many different types of people to kind of collaborate on solutions. One of those types of people would be our customers. So the goal of what solution architects do is to build solutions that meet specific business objectives, right? So I spend probably about 20 to 30% of my time with our customers to talk about what their goals are, what their objectives are, what sort of revenues they're trying to drive, how they're looking to grow, and how do they want to land on the marketplace. So if they're deploying a banking solution, a new banking solution, a new online app that's a bank, whether it's, someone like Robinhood or Synchrony Bank, et cetera, these banks all need back-end solutions to back them up. And that's sort of what our bank does. So a lot of my time is spent talking to customers about how they want to reach out to customers and how they want to grow in that marketplace. And then take that feedback back and say, okay, what are those building blocks that make sense for this business? Put together whether it's architecture diagrams, design diagrams, work with those customers to refine them, and then communicate that out, right? Because in order to implement the solutions that we're designing with our customers, we need developers to develop potentially new integration points, new interfaces. We need QA people to test them. We need project managers to manage the timeline. So a lot of my day-to-day is kind of working in between these teams to make sure that we get what the customer needs out the door, and that the solution we design up front is actually the solution we end up delivering and deploying for our customer. And the last piece is around integration. Like I said, there's a lot of integration and implementation. One of the other pieces is making sure that all the building blocks fit nicely together. So do they all fit well? Do they fit well with the customer's platform? So part of that understanding the customer is understanding what technology do they deploy. Is it Java? Is it Python? Is it the Microsoft .NET platform, et cetera? So how do they all fit together? Does everybody have RESTful endpoints and talk nicely to each other, or do they not? So that's by and large a lot of the day-to-day work and responsibilities. Just to sum up this slide, I think one of the key pieces of a solution architect that my CEO summed up really well is that this role should have a goal of making sure that the client is successful and do whatever it takes to get there. It's not about, just building this really awesome piece of software. It's making sure your software actually is deployed and used and impactful to the business's bottom line. That kind of sums that up. So just a little bit of summary of the people. I think of the people in three buckets, right? So there's our clients, and then there's your internal team. And then the third piece is vendors. There's going to be lots of other vendors that plug into your solution between you and your client. So it's about making all of those relationships gel as part of the role, making sure everyone is talking the same language to each other, making sure that your design or the design of what you want to deploy together across all these different parties actually works seamlessly, that the interfaces work correctly, that when we test it, we're testing all of the use cases from end to end, not just a particular endpoint. And so to make all of that happen, you really need to work through all of the other people on the outer rung. So whether it's application security people, so oftentimes I'll work with the CISO of our client companies, working with product managers, because sometimes we need to change their product a little bit to make sure that the solution we want to put in place works. We want to talk to business analysts so we can document those changes. We want to talk to project managers so they can, manage the projects to actually deploy those changes. We could talk to relationship managers because maybe new contracts need to be put in place because the changes actually require new legal agreements, or we need to disclose specific pieces of integration or use of data, what have you. So all of these things are in play when you're a solution architect. One of the awesome things about it is that it's a role that doesn't really have boundaries in talking to different people. You are going to be faced in front of all of these people. You need to have a stance and represent your clients, and you need to be able to get through to lots of different people. It's not just about being really sharp technically so that the developers can fill what you need. It's also making sure that you can connect the dots across many of these different groups. So having said that, the fun part, and I touched on this a little bit as well, I think is my fun part. I get to innovate where there are solutions that our clients want or the marketplace is starting to demand because of, incumbents, because of incoming fintech companies trying to innovate on specific processes, whether it's in the banking space, or innovative companies like Robinhood that come in and, completely want to turn the trading brokerage world upside down, or people that want to build new blockchain solutions. I get to be at the forefront of that and innovate on the technology that we have together. So right now, For example, I'm working on a new AI project where we're going to cut down operational processes of some certain people that have to review a process. So there's an existing process in place, and we have about 300,000 of these requests that come in every year, where somebody has to look at a piece of paper and your brokerage statement to discern if you can do X. We're probably going to put an AI platform on top of that so that we can reduce the number of physical people looking at physical paper, and we'll probably use some OCR technology to, scrape off what the text is, do the right comparisons using machine learning, and move on. We don't need to have people review 300,000 pieces of paper every year. So really cool stuff that you can do by playing this role where you get to be at the forefront of driving a lot of these initiatives. We're also talking to folks about building out blockchain platforms and how we can share data across blockchains within our industry with vendors and our customers. Lots of places where you can flex your technical muscles, but also, be at the forefront to drive some of these changes. The other thing I really like is working across boundaries. So if you remember my previous slide, it's really working with every type of role that you can imagine in a company. I personally like working and being able to see the big picture. So when I am allowed in my role to work across the boundaries of the team and not just to focus on, necessarily one piece of development or one application, I can see broadly how that has business impact, both to the marketplace, to my company, and I measure my own success by being able to drive some of those impacts across the firm, across the industry. So as examples, many, many years ago, before I was even aware that I was playing the role of a solution architect, I worked on deploying large-scale managed account platform solutions and products to the marketplace. And that's where it's like your mom, your parents, or you might be working with a financial advisor. So the financial advisor actually offers solutions to the people that they advise. So we were deploying new solutions to those financial advisors to make them available. It's innovating, it's working across boundaries, across business and technology to really have impact. I don't know about you guys, I get bored of doing just one job. So I love the fact that this role isn't just one job to me. So there are days when I have to sit there and I'm mapping out design diagrams of how different things connect. There are days when I'm sitting on the phone with a customer just advising them. There could be days I'm sitting with another customer and just triaging bugs because there are bugs in the platform. It is not one job, it is many jobs. And I love the flexibility of being able to do them all. I love that I don't have to get bored at work because I'm not doing the same thing every day. Those are some of what I think are the fun parts. We'll move on to results. So at least for me and how I do my role, because it's a customer-facing role, because my bottom line is to drive innovation and revenue and customer satisfaction, I really spend a lot of time thinking about the impact of what I'm doing on a regular basis. So whether it's every month, I spend a little time with myself or talking to my peers around how impactful we are as a team, but also for the value that I'm adding to these customers, but assess what that impact for myself. I think solution architects have a huge amount of impact when done correctly, in that you can drive all of the things I've talked about for a company. And you still get to be hands-on and be technical, but also understanding the bigger picture of how the marketplace is playing out as you're deploying some of these solutions. I definitely look for increased customer satisfaction. I definitely look for at least maintaining the revenue that the customer is bringing in for the firm over time, but ideally increasing the revenue because we're deploying technology to help make them grow. So that's one of the things that is a key driver for me. And when I'm measuring my own results, how much I'm innovating in this space, how much am I innovating for my company, for myself, and measure that impact. Because I think over time, you'll see that impact is really, really rewarding to this role. With that, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I got here and my background. I would say a long, long time ago. I graduated from college. I went to SUNY Stony Brook. I have a computer science degree. I kind of fell into technology a little bit because I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I think I wanted to be a physics major when I was in college, when I first entered college, because I really, really love physics. And I started, I think by the time I got through my sophomore year, I decided that wasn't such a good idea. I had taken some computer science courses and I really fell in love with it. It just fit naturally with how I think and how I look at the world. And even today, when I have conversations with my friends, I have conversations around like, this is just like how you would write code. So maybe it's just inherent in my personality, but that's just how I fell into technology. So after college, I found a job at a very, very small startup. I guess small is relative. So maybe the startup was around 100 people at the time, relatively small company still. And it was a consulting company. I got a job as a software engineer. We're building out type of online shopping sites, if you will. We built out one or two of them. We started getting some bigger contracts. And, we even got some work from AccuWeather, I think, at the time, and Goldman Sachs, et cetera. So I did a bit of consulting to the bigger firms as well. And then from there, I took some time off. I felt like I needed a break because we were working really hard at consulting. And, I took a year off to kind of do some other stuff and just mess around. And I guess I felt like I had that luxury. When I came back to work, I decided I definitely still love technology. I went back into the technology space and got a job as another developer type of role. But again, continued in consulting for some time. And as time grew, I moved into different jobs and different careers. I became a lead developer and I got promoted to be a development manager. I started managing small teams, like 2 people at first, and it grew to 5 and 7. By the time I was mid-career, I guess I was managing about 30 or 40 people, all running different applications on our platform. So one of the things that, I felt like that was very organic growth. I didn't really think too much about it. I kind of just I was a go with the flow kind of person. And then I got a lot of leadership trainings. I think I was lucky that some other people saw potential in me. They felt that I can grow further, and I was able to get leadership training. I got into positions where I was able to build a lot of new products, whether it's new applications, new technology, business platforms that we were deploying that was going to be revenue generating. So I learned a lot in that period of time in my middle of my career on what it meant to run businesses in the financial services world. What are these various financial products that we were building? How do they work? How do customers use them? How do we build for them, et cetera? And, where is it in the marketplace? Is it the most innovative thing we could be doing? Or, is this a 1970s kind of thing that, we should get out of. So a lot of insight and a lot of great mentors along the way. And then I moved into a more senior management role. And at the last point, I was managing about 60 or so developers, which is really the entire front-end business unit of one of our revenue generating units. I owned the entire front-end platform for, one of our managed accounts business. So it's all for managed money. The whole platform is for financial advisors. And the goal is that they can create proposals to propose how you can invest your money and then thereby manage that money and, the full cycle of managing that wealth. So I did that for quite a few years. And then I was approached to develop a new product. So if you guys heard of robo-advice back a couple of years ago, and it's still going right now, I was tapped to go develop robo-advice on the Persian platform. And that was kind of a new product. No one's done anything with it before. So I had to kind of conceptualize and build out using all of the core building blocks, if you will, that we had, but, innovating and building out new tools, bringing in new vendors that we had never worked with before, and really getting out into the fintech space. So really, really phenomenal experience. Did a lot of fintech type of integrations as a result. Then got tapped again to go into my current role, which is a solution architect for my company. And I only really service our top tier clients. So there are, I think our Persian's top 5 clients, they all get solution architects, and I service that group of top clients. So I would consider it white glove service, if you will, for some of these top tier clients in terms of being able to leverage our technology in the most efficient and innovative way. And so that's my role. Do you guys have any questions on the role, day-to-day responsibilities, et cetera?
My question is really around career path and, and solution architecture. So in some companies, you're on a management track or an individual contributor track. and sometimes those cross and sometimes they don't. So I was just curious in your organization how that fits, or how things or people flow back and forth between those two tracks.
Yeah, that's a really good question. For my company, a solution architect is an individual contributor. And I actually seen that to be the case for a lot of companies that have similar roles. And so instead of having a team of people, we would manage to get something done. Like, when I was running application development, I had a large team of people to manage to get something done. My role is more about working with others to get things done. So the other thing that we use instead of, direct management is influence. So it's not a management track type of role. There are a couple of managers that manage solution architects that I'm aware of, but they're very far and few in between. I think I know two out of all the people that I know, and that is just not a lot. Oftentimes, they're individual contributors.
And does that, I guess, given your history in terms of management, was that an appeal to go back to have more, I guess, maybe direct customer impact and to use those influence skills in terms of next steps? Is there management ability there? Yeah.
I think if I understood the question correctly, are you asking if I would still want to go back to the management track, or what the growth of a solution architect could be?
So really the second, what do you feel like?
Oh, I see. So when I look at where I might be in, 2 to 5 years, I don't think I would see myself managing other solution architects. And I'm not sure that I would even want to. I think this was a role that I really liked because it gave me the ability to innovate. Oftentimes, solution architects had to move into a role where they manage other solution architects, or they move into other roles to run technology organizations. So because you get such a broad view of how everything works together, you're likely to have the opportunity to run broader organizations, particularly if you have prior management experience. It just makes sense for some of them to get slotted into other types of managerial roles if you want to go back into management. That would be running new initiatives, or I've seen other people run larger organizations when they step back into a managerial role.
Okay, thank you.
Did you ever have any think outside of a box moment you've had as a solution architect? Is there any one you can maybe share with everybody?
Yeah, definitely. This one may or may not make sense, but I'll try my best to explain it. It's a little bit more finance related. Our customers tend to obviously have a whole bunch of accounts and they have assets with us, right? One of the things we started noticing over time for one of our customers I've been covering for 2 years is that they were starting to bleed money out. So for one reason or another, we were seeing huge trends of billions of dollars of money that they would have on their platform that was starting to be moved out of their platform. And there was definitely a aha moment for us. We've probably, after noticing it for 6 months, we started trying to have conversations with them around what it is that's happening. We wanted them to, either have a good answer for why they're losing money versus not. And they really, didn't focus on it. And it took us probably, another 6 to 12 months before we got their attention on this being a fairly serious problem when you start losing billions of dollars every quarter out to some other place. And one of the things that was sort of a aha moment for me was really recognizing that the customers don't necessarily know better than you do. And it's about you being really diligent for those customers. And they're really, that creates a relationships for them to be really sticky to your business. Because I think after some of the subsequent conversation and analysis, we came up with a plan to help this customer address some of these problems. And it's not just technology, because I come from a very, technology-based background. It's really learning how the technology gets applied to the business. So now we're actually in the process of building out a new platform and solution that would help stem the outflow of money. Without some of the recognition on the business side and really having the connection across the business and tech, like you're not really able to make those connections and have the kind of impact that you should have. This may apply to developers as well. Particularly, I have that background, and I know that if I knew I was developing solutions that wasn't meeting a certain need, I wouldn't want to do that. I would want to change my ways. So pretty big aha moment in just really learning to connect the dots better.
Yeah, and I guess it's really nerve-wracking, especially in finance sector, that there's billions or millions of dollars involved, right?
Yeah, same thing with healthcare, actually.
Well,
Pretty nerve-wracking.
yeah, healthcare is more, life and death. You want to make sure that everything is safe, meeting requirements, meeting regulatory rules, things like that. So yeah, it's always nerve-wracking, regardless.
Yep, definitely.
So if anyone does have any further questions for you, can they contact you offline, maybe through LinkedIn or something like that?
Yep, I have my LinkedIn profile up here, so feel free to drop me a message, and I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Great. Well, we really appreciate you taking your time to speak at today's topic for solutions analyst or solution architect. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing all your insights. I hope everyone got some great information from you. And yeah, keep in touch. Thank you so much, Kit.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.